One of my favorite sporting events of any time is the Summer Olympics. And so I was watching with great interest this year, cheering for the red, white, and blue as we had the Tokyo Olympics, the 2020 Olympics that were postponed from last year. We just experienced this past summer. And of all the events in the Olympics, one of my favorite events is always the relay race, especially the 4x100 relay race. Did you know that America in the past 3 Summer Olympics has failed in the relay race because of the basic premise of catching the baton? Every track coach will tell you that the key to any relay race is the passing of the baton. Well, in 2012 in London and in 2016 in Rio, both of those years, the America 4x100 relay team lost the race because somebody dropped the baton. Well, the year 2020, or the Olympics of 2020 in Tokyo this year, were probably the worst of all. We were favored to win this year, had 4 of the greatest sprinters in the world on our Olympic team. But it was tragic because the baton could not be passed. It happened when the second runner, a runner by the name of Fred Curley, very fast man, tried to pass the baton to Ronnie Baker on the 3rd leg. Well, Ronnie reached back for the baton, but he grabbed a handful of Fred's jersey. On the second attempt, he just whiffed. He missed grabbing the baton. By the time that he grabbed the baton from Fred, they were side by side. America finished in 6th place in the qualifying heat. Didn't even make the final round. Didn't even qualify for a medal. It was a tragedy because we were heavily favored to win. The passing of the baton is important in any race. Most of all, it's important in the Christian race. Can I remind you, as parents and grandparents, we're responsible for passing the baton of faith along to the next generation, keeping the faith going. The Bible writes about that in the book of Psalms, the importance of generations handing off to another generation. Psalm 127 and 128 have been called bookend psalms about the family. In Psalm 127 verse 1, the psalmist begins by saying, "Unless the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it." And he writes the rest of the psalm about child raising. When he comes to the 128th psalm, he begins by saying, "Blessed is everyone who fears the Lord and walks in his ways." And then he talks about children being like olive plants that grow and sprout and move on. Well, it comes to the last verse of that psalm, Psalm 128:6, by saying this, "Yes, may your children's children see peace upon Israel." So he's literally talking about passing the faith down from one generation to the next, seeing your children and grandchildren serving the Lord. Boy, this is a crucial generation. I don't have to tell you what's going on in America and in the world. And as never before, it is important for Bible-believing parents to pass the faith along to their children, to be sure their children know the importance of the Word of God and the church of God and the things of God. So I've come to challenge you today. I've come to challenge you to pass the faith along. Have your kids involved in all kind of sports and all those things. It's wonderful. But don't ever let it take the place of or substitute the importance of having your kids in church, having them under the preaching of the Word of God, and growing up in the Lord. So I'm going to challenge you as parents, don't drop the baton. It's crucial. We have to pass it along. So pass the faith along. Well, I want to thank you for listening to me today, and thank you for the way that you support our ministry. In the years 2020 and 2021, COVID has affected us all. And for the first time in a number of months, our ministry is receiving some cancellations again as COVID spikes in different parts of the country. And so because of that, I want to take time to thank those of you who are faithful partners to our ministry and help us through these difficult times. We've had several cancellations in the month of September. Please pray that we have no more cancellations. We're able to finish dates, not for the sake of the ministry, but for the sake of revival and seeing souls saved. It's been a glorious year. One of the most glorious parts of the year was our summer camp that just ended, our PowerLIfe Student Camp, number 31. It's bittersweet because it's our last year, but it's sweet because it's probably among the greatest camps we ever had. 87 students were saved out of the 715 that attended. And I think of the passing the baton. I think of the legacy of PowerLife just in my own family. I say this just in reference to praising the name of the Lord, bragging on no one but Jesus. But at our very first camp, my son Jonathan, who was camp director for PowerLife, he was 6 months old. And at our last camp this year, Jonathan, who still works for our ministry, of course, but it was his last year as camp director, his 6-month-old daughter Kai was there. Well, what a thrill. And then my oldest daughter, Rachel, was 10 years old at our first camp. And our last camp this year, her 12-year-old daughter, Jade, my granddaughter, attended as a student. Of course, my daughter, Jessica, was there with her children as well, who were not teenagers, but just there. So my kids have all been involved in PowerLife all these years. So it's bittersweet. But the season is over. We have ended PowerLife, but not ended the ministry. And so I want to thank you again, those who support, those who keep on keeping on so we can keep on keeping on. I love you, and I thank you. May God bless you. Have a great day in the Lord.